The Vice President and the Secretary of Education made news this week within a 24-hour cycle by boldly stating their support for homosexual marriage. Coincidence or coordinated strategy? I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by Bill Whittle and Stephen Green. Men, in the midst of deep global economic turmoil, scandal at the Department of Energy and Justice, and rising tension with the Arab world, Russia, China, Afghanistan, Mexico, Iran, North Korea, France, Greece, and nearly the entire continent of Africa, two NBC personalities corner two top administration officials and ask the burning question of our day.
I am absolutely comfortable with the fact that men marrying men, women marrying women, and heterosexual men and women marrying women are entitled to the same exact rights, all the civil rights, all the civil liberties. And quite frankly, I don't see much of a distinction.
Do you believe that same-sex men and women should be able to get legally married in the United States?
Oh, come on. You're going to start there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so have you ever said that publicly before?
I don't know if I've ever been asked publicly.
Well, Stephen Green, your Hair of the Dog show here on PJTV.com makes you the go-to expert on the Sunday Talkers. David Gregory gets an exclusive with a Vice President of the United States at a time such as this. How does the same-sex marriage question even get on his teleprompter? What's your theory?
Well, first, you can't put too much weight on what Joe Biden says, because he's always off the reservation. And then you had David Axelrod walking back what Biden said. And then you had Arnie walking back the walk back. So who knows? But you asked how it got on David Gregory's teleprompter. You know what? Inside the Washington cocoon, this is a big issue. David Gregory wants to know. He wants Joe Biden to hold his hand and tell him that after the election, everything is going to be okay. You know, that we'll have more flexibility. And Scott, I know we have disagreements about gay marriage, but let me tell you something as someone who supports the idea. If it's adopted nationwide by judicial fiat, because Obama gets reelected and installs more liberal justices on this court, it would be a disaster. It would tear the country apart maybe as badly as Roe v. Wade did. And that's just one of the reasons I think it's so important to vote this guy out in November.
Well, Bill Whittle, Joe Biden's answer was effusive, detailed, and it even included a hat tip to the old TV show Will and Grace. Is this just another example of the uncontrolled yammering of the man who's a heartbeat from the presidency? Is the media trying to force the president to take a public stand on this? Or did it seem to you that the administration actually wants to engage on this issue?
Well, before I answer that question about gay marriage, I've given this a lot of thought and gone through a lot of, soul searching and heartache. And I have an announcement I think it's probably as appropriate to make here as it would be anywhere else. This probably come as a big surprise to a lot of people. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe the signals were there the whole time. But, I got the new iPhone 4S, and it's freaking awesome. The Siri thing on that is unbelievable. Yes. But anyway, to the gay issue. Everything that Joe Biden says you can always take with a grain of salt. And in fact, you should probably take the whole shaker. I don't think that this is an accident. I think that there's certainly some sort of prep in the battle space involved here. And I think it's, rather than prepping the battle space, I think it's more of a sticking a toe in the water to see how the reaction to this thing is going to be. Certainly public opinions on this issue have been changing more and more and more in favor of gay marriage. But if you look at the political fallout of this, of Obama coming out in favor of it, well, we'll get to the second round of questions, but I'm not sure that will be a smart move.
Well, Steve, Rick Santorum was raked over the coals by liberals, libertarians, and so-called moderate Republicans alike for injecting social issues into the presidential campaign. But the media and the Obama administration, forgive the redundancy, have plunged headlong into Sandra Fluke's birth control and now same-sex marriage. Is this an accident or a strategy? Was Santorum just a few months ahead of his time?
Oh, maybe. I mentioned inside the cocoon, but outside, I think people are worried about one thing, and that's how to get the economy producing jobs again. And I think that was Santorum's problem. He loved arguing social issues just for the sake of arguing social issues. It didn't fit into the bigger picture of winning the nomination. He could not stay on message in what's really a single issue election. And that's electoral suicide. Mitt Romney did very well, believe it or not, with evangelicals in a lot of states, because even they, for the most part, wanted to hear about the economic message. But you know what? The economy is so bad. Obama wants to talk about gay marriage and the life of Julia and the war on women and all the other distractions. And if that's the route he wants to go down, I think Romney is going to pummel him for it, just like he pummeled Rick Santorum in the primaries.
Well, Bill, if these questions and answers by the liberal elite were not or maybe they're just a quickly passing fad, I don't know. But if not, then the question becomes, is this issue a winner for the Obama campaign? How does the president use this to swing votes his way?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Let's take the issue of gay marriage as a moral issue off the table. Put aside whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea. Let's just look at it tactically. Gay marriage, for Barack Obama to come out in favor of gay marriage would gain him enormous help from his base. And there are certain moderates, certainly the millennial crowd, younger people, who this is a much smaller issue for. It's really a non-issue. They don't see anything wrong with gays being married. Might help them somewhat with them. But I can't see how this would possibly be a net gain for him. It would energize his base to some degree, would energize our base to some degree. Our base is twice as big as their base. People need to remember this. And where it would really hurt Barack Obama, and this is kind of the dark underbelly of liberal politics, is that so many of these little racial tribes that they divide the country up into are very anti-gay marriage. Black community is very generally opposed to gay marriage. The Hispanic community as well. So if he's actually doing the calculation that thinks that announcement would gain him net votes, I think it's just madness. And so I think it's go for it.
You know, what caught our attention about this story is that news is not just what's happening, it's what someone wants to happen. What appears on TV is no accident. Each moment is scripted. Interviews and debates are coached and rehearsed. What's more, the symbiotic relationship between Democrats and so-called journalists is so tight, politicians don't even have to send their talking points. It's a Vulcan mind meld. To break their monopoly on issues and information, we continually need to ask, why is this news? And who benefits? We won't always have an answer, but we can go as far as the facts will take us and make reasoned judgments based on history and additional research. For Bill, Steve, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.